Welcome to another episode of Breaking Ground. I'm Steve Kliegerman, and I'm honored to be with my guests, Nikki Greenberg, and our Chief Marketing Officer, Hunter Frick. Nikki, thanks so much for joining us. It's great to see you again. We used to work together before you became this global expert on tech and all things tech. So I'm going to give a little bit of an introduction for you first. Don't blush too much. Nikki Greenberg is a real estate technology and innovation strategist with a broad professional background working in real estate development spanning 2 decades. Nikki's been the recipient of numerous industry awards and accolades, including being recognized as a top 9 most influential PropTech woman in 2024. Congratulations. And just to say, I knew you went.
Yeah.
So it's great to have you. Tell us a little bit about what you've been doing since we worked together and you came here from Australia after you had a long career working with developers down there. And we worked together a lot on marketing and marketing initiatives. And then you decided to broaden your horizons and really go after your passion, which was PropTech.
Yeah, and I think it's important to say that, you gave me my start in New York. And when I wanted to move to New York and I emailed 200 people blindly on LinkedIn, Hunter was one of the only people that bothered to reply to me. So, kudos to you guys for giving me that opportunity. But really what happened is that when I moved here, I was exposed to PropTech. And I was like, well, why is this industry not talking about it enough? Because it's this great tool that we have in the tool belt that can do wonderful things. So when I was working with you guys on new development marketing, I started my career working as an architect and urban designer, so working in development for, 20 years in Australia, China, and here. And, when I was exposed to PropTech, I was like, well, this is kind of interesting, and went down the rabbit hole to really make it my career. So had the great honor of working as the head of technology strategy at a large investment manager back in Australia during the pandemic, and really putting theory into practice at a portfolio level across, 22 assets, about 22 billion AUM, and just kind of looking at, what can we use technology for within our operations, our assets, and, from the customer perspective to, create, great and efficient experiences. So, today I'm very lucky. I'm actually, I used to say, oh, the dream is to live in New York. I got to live in New York. And it's like, okay, that's amazing. Tick that box. It's kind of like, well, what's next? Worked in luxury real estate, worked on Park Avenue with you guys. I'm like, that's awesome. So what's next? So now, the new dream, which I'm living at the moment, is that I get to travel around the world speaking at conferences, sharing my ideas about the future and what people can do with emerging technologies, understanding future trends, and, driving the industry forward. And then, sitting on a few boards, such as PropTech Sweden and Bondi Advisory, as well. And, working with leadership teams to understand what they can do, particularly in the real estate industry, to become future ready and be more tech savvy and, embrace these trends.
And so tell us a little bit about what do you think is really shaping the future of real estate development today?
There's a few factors at play, and I'd love to hear Hunter's perspective as well, particularly being at the face of the customer and representing their needs in his marketing role. And I think there's kind of 3 things that are really driving new development. We know affordability is a big one. Affordability is absolutely atrocious. I won't get into that. It's depressing. I'm trying to buy at the moment, and I can tell you it is.
Firsthand, yeah.
Yeah, it is hard out there. I think between my aspirations and what I can afford are very, very different, very, very different lifestyles.
So that must be interesting. Being a buyer now, do you look at technology different? Do you look at the markets different, being on the buyer side versus being on the consultant side?
Oh, yeah, 1,000%. And I'll give you an example. So there was this great demo recently released by an AI called Manus, M-A-N-U-S, AI. And it shows this use case where the person types in, my wife and I have, we're looking to buy a property. Our kids are this age. We're looking for safe neighborhood, great schools, and we have $50,000 in earnings every month. Find us a place. Does this great demo. It's, lines everything up. It goes searching on Zillow and everything. And it comes out with this beautiful list of properties that you can look at. I'm like, wow, I want to try this. So I finally get into Manus AI. They weren't making it accessible to everyone. I get on there. I try the exact same thing with my criteria, my neighborhood, my price range, etc. What does it spit out? garbage, absolute garbage. So I tried again, and I tried again and again. I'm like, okay, this just kind of sucks. Like I got absolutely nowhere with it. So I think for me as a technology enthusiast that I will try the tools. I will try different ways of doing things. And yeah, when I'm looking for a home, I'm also looking at enhancements that I can make. Like I do want a virtual doorman. That's a non-negotiable. It's a lifestyle thing. I do want smart locks. I do want to have smart lighting and smart shades. These are things I have at home that I'm used to and actually enhance my lifestyle. So, and I'm going to kind of jump the gun here a little bit because I know you have a lot of developers in your audience. And for me, coming from a development background, you have to understand that if a customer can buy the stuff at Best Buy, if we want to be providing the best of the best, we've also got to put it in our developments or make sure that they're able to have the customer put in these things, smart lights, smart shades, et cetera, et cetera. We want smart homes for convenience.
Absolutely. So Hunter, to that extent, how do you convey that message about the smart home, about the adaptability of a home, and what technology have you seen recently that you're excited about for the future?
Sure. So I think you kind of have to look at it in different kind of phases of development. So early on, you're seeing architects work with AI to help themselves and developers envision what a project could become. So we have a project, for instance, where there was a plot of land. We had a Google Street Map view of the project, and we're able, through AI, to show something in the style of Robert A.M. Stern, to show something in the style of Richard Meyer, and to show something in the style that was something a little bit more transitional. And I think, developers in general can see themselves as visionaries, but this takes it to a whole new level where you can actually communicate visually on what a site can become. So you're seeing, I think, a lot of enhancements with that. Also, doing just test fits with floor plans. I think there's just some added efficiencies. And I would say in all sectors of what we do, it's peer review. I see it as a supplemental tool. Just yesterday, we were doing some basic fact checking and kind of what are the highlights for a loft conversion project we're working on right now. And just laborious. We were calculating ceiling heights and looking at things, and I said, drop it into AI and tell us what the average ceiling height is across 200 apartments because I don't have time to do this manually. In 2 seconds, we figured out that in South End lofts, our average ceiling heights are 11 foot 6 inches. So, like I said, I think there's a lot of tools that are available. It's that build versus buy conversation we've had. Or is it off the shelf, or is it something customizable? And I think when you get into the built environment, what we're seeing is, you really kind of need the things that are built and somewhat future-proofed because you're installing them and there's a lot of liability on the line. But like you said, added efficiencies and, life enhancements and things that add value and convenience to people's lives is what I'm most excited about.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So, to that point in talking about, you're putting your information into AI for it to help you make a decision. What markets are you seeing that have the best data? Because I would assume that the AI is only as good as the data that it's available to it. And I know when we work together, and Hunter and I have been working together for almost 2 decades now, when we first started working together, the amount of information that was available was woefully inadequate. It was very, very hard to get almost any details about any sales data, any information about competing projects. So we've gotten a lot better here in New York, but I bet there are places that do it better than we do.
Yeah, and I recall, going through trying to find information and was only available as a PDF, or you'd have to go into the office to find it. And that's one of the difficulties with some of these platforms that promise that they can, spit out, find 1,000 sites in 30 seconds and find all these deals. It's that if you don't have the information available, you're not going to make the right decision, and you're going to be given this, hallucinated version of events. But having said that, because, I did say that I'd come back to you with a place that does do it well, and it was something I was in Sweden about actually last month, and their property industry is amazing, and they do have centralized records, they're digitized, and there's a high level of trust. So, they don't have corruption, there's great transparency for buyers and sellers, and then as a result, the PropTechs that come through, they actually have access to the data to do things in a better way. And I will just throw an extra thing in as a bit of a plug that, one of the things that we have an issue with as an industry is that ultimately we do want to work towards having these almost like the butterfly effect, this predictive AI that you can understand what the ramifications of one small thing will be that's going to affect your project timeline, your costing, etc. What's going to be the effects of weather delays, or what if the price of timber goes up? What if? That's called strong AI.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where our industry and all industries want to be able to move towards having, this predictive power. But the catch is that our industry doesn't have great data that's publicly accessible. A lot of companies keep it internally, it's not shared, or it's not in the right kind of form. So that's going to hinder us.
Yeah. And, with that, in our next segment, I'd love to talk a little bit more about how forums like ULI help to create that sharing of data. We'll be right back.
I'm Brian Scott Cohen, one of the top loan originators in the country, and the #1 mortgage originator at Guaranteed Rate Infinity. Guaranteed Rate Infinity arguably has the most advanced tech in the industry. Our completely digital loan process makes it easy and efficient for homeowners, from a 15-minute pre-approval to the digital application and through closing. My team and I would love to help you get into the home of your dreams.
Hi, I'm Evan Greenberg with Langdon Title. I specialize in title insurance across New York, helping real estate attorneys, agents, and brokers close with confidence. I solve problems fast and keep your deals moving. Contact me anytime.
All right. So talking about the sharing of data and getting information, and Hunter, you've been involved with ULI as I have, and I know Nikki has spoken at ULI and is a member of ULI as well and been highly recognized. How have forums like that helped you inform our clients and helped you gather more information to do our job better?
Sure. I would say it's a sharing of resources. We have a chat group where we share vendor information, we share market insights. It's strictly confidential, so we're sharing things that are not publicized outside of our kind of closed channel. But it's helpful just kind of having those peers, in different markets with different perspectives, and challenging days. Are you seeing X, Y, Z? And there's a lot of repetition, even though New York is kind of a market unto itself. Like there's a lot of global trends and national trends that you start to recognize, and just having that outside perspective, trusted, has been invaluable to me.
Yeah. So even though PropTech is the topic, sometimes good old networking really works still too, right?
Yeah, and I might add on to that because I am a ULI super user. I really am. I was one of the founding members of the Tech and Innovation Council. I was the chair of it for 3 years, including other things. And one of the times that it really came in handy was during the pandemic when we were all in full lockdown. And our Tech and Innovation Council in New York, so I used to chair that with Draw Pollig, who some of the listeners might know. And we'd have once a week, we'd have a check-in where everyone came in, there were 45 of us, and everyone would give an update of what are we seeing, how are we handling this is what the city's doing, and became this kind of lifeline of, swapping industry insights to kind of know that we're not in it alone, and to kind of replace that, bumping into someone in the street. And those connections, they last you through your career. And I might add, as a bit of a segue to advice that nobody asked for, which I love to do, but for younger listeners, there's nothing like your network. And I think, Steve, you're somebody that really epitomizes that. I remember working for you. You were always prioritizing getting back to people on emails, making introduction, helping people first. That doesn't go away, those connections.
No, as much as we can use technology to foster relationships, the interpersonal connections that we make with people, the security we feel in sharing that information, knowing that it's not going to be abused, it's going to be used, but it's not going to be abused, is really, really important. To that end, talking about kind of the personal side of this, how do you deal with when people say, well, if I invest in this technology, I'm going to invest myself out of a job?
I mean, look, if someone's worried that a technology is going to replace them, then they don't understand their value or the technology. And really the best cases are where you have somebody that has a lot of experience, that knows their job inside and out, understands the industry inside and out. When you couple them with a great technology and they become a super user, then you've just 10x'd what you can do, And I think there's like a lot of technologies that we use at a very superficial level, almost like smart TVs, like is everyone using all the features or are you just turning it on and off, changing the channel, volume up and down? A lot of us use technology in that way. But I think if you have somebody that has the expertise and you supercharge them with being that super user, whether it's them themselves or somebody from their team that can really use the power of it, then they're absolutely invincible. And I think if someone's worried about being replaced, then they've got to, I think the best thing is to change their attitude and go, how can I either learn this technology that there's no one better than me, it's like a chef with their knives, or can I get somebody from my team that really can enhance what I know?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And to that end, what you're ultimately saying is you need to make sure that you build your own brand, right? So that you're still useful even though you're using technology.
Well, I think it's beyond that, and I'll be quite true. Hopefully no one in Australia is watching this, but I think the best thing you can do is actually put yourself out of a job, because if you put yourself out of a job, then you can concentrate on more interesting things. And I had I'm going through this process at the moment where I'm trying to automate a lot of my admin work or a lot of the things that I do because it's low value work. So I'm trying to basically get rid of that. But even when I was in Australia, I had an intern that I worked with and I taught her how to do some things. She was very good. I taught her some more things and then she started doing my work for me. So I put myself out of the job, right? Right. And you know what it did? It freed me up because she could do 30% of my job. It gave me 30% more time to sit down, have coffees with people, learn new things, go out, etc. So put yourself out of a job and you get that free time. I mean, what do you think, Hunter?
Yeah. And Hunter, when we first started working together, it was just you. It was you and me, right?
Yeah.
So you did every job, and now you have a whole team working under you. So how does that work, and how does that evolve, and how does it feel?
Well, I think, like you said, it frees you up to do other things. And something else you said that stuck with me for a while is everyone feels like they're behind in the game of AI, and I think that sentiment is kind of all around because it's so quickly evolving, and business is changing by the day. All the needs and demands, and something else you have to keep in mind when we started working together 20 years ago, the marketing channels that we use today didn't exist, right?
Barely any.
Yeah, as we built a team and I was able to kind of step back, I was able to focus on all of those, relationship building and channel building and all the other things that, add value for us and our clients and our projects. So I think, like you said, it's just really figuring out how to automate certain things and figure out where you want to grow, where you want the business to grow, and where you can help clients grow as well. Yeah.
So let's move on to some other topics. Like, you obviously speak all over the country, all over the world. What cities do you see being really the cutting edge future of development, of marketing? Where should we be looking to learn from?
So the great thing is that wherever I go in the world, they always feel like they're behind. So, and everybody looks at New York, let's be honest. Everybody looks at New York and wants to know everything that's going on here, seeing it as the cutting edge, the best of the tech, best of real estate, etc. And we know that's true in some aspects. I get excited. I've been very fortunate to go through, the Scandis, the Nordics, Finland, Norway, Denmark, and Sweden. I've got them all under my belt now, and I'm enamored by all of them. And I think it's a combination of being places that are very able to think about affordable housing. I was almost about to buy a place in Stockholm because an accountant that I was sitting next to on the train convinced me before I even got to Stockholm. You get these beautiful places in the middle of the city for $300,000, $500 a month in your HOA, that's kind of it. Beautiful historic buildings, and there's just a lot of them, beautiful quality, beautiful housing stock. And I think because places like that, they've got the fundamentals right, good quality of life, housing, great transportation, etc. They're not playing whack-a-mole trying to fix things all the time. They can actually enhance what's going on, which means that it does lead to, better things in, education and quality of life, etc., etc. So, but having said that, I'll come back to New York for a moment because one of the criticisms they have in these countries is that, there's not the entrepreneurial experience that you get in the US. In the US, you can start a company, get funding, and if you fail, you can start again too. So they end up coming here eventually. So
interesting.
Yeah.
And are you seeing more, it would seem to me that, and from what I've read, they're also a little bit further ahead with sustainability in their construction. And are they using PropTech more to drive that sustainable conversation?
Yeah, I think the sustainable conversation's been around for a long time. It's part of their ethos to begin with. So homes will have great insulation, for example, and people dress properly in the winter. There's also requirements by the EU around the circular economy. So being able to report on their, not just on carbon emissions, but on the full construction life cycle is now a big thing. So, but at the same time, it's also a lot of authenticity from people's priorities and what they want in the world. And I remember the first time I went to Finland, someone said it's actually quite sad. Like, it used to snow at this time of year, and we see it now. We can't have, we can't. We live in a world where it doesn't snow in December. We want to see that for our children, and that's kind of the mentality. They know that a building's sustainability is not just, hey, we tick the box. It's like, what does this mean for us and our next generation?
Yeah. We'll be right back.
Ultimate Diamond is New York City's most established family-owned jeweler. With over 65 years of experience, Ultimate is renowned for its exceptional, custom-crafted diamond jewelry, its bespoke engagement ring designs, and its ability to source rare, distinguished timepieces. Ultimate has built a legacy of timeless craftsmanship and discretion, making it a trusted name among those who value refined luxury. Learn more at ultimatediamond.com.
Hey, it's Stephen Bailey from Roadway Moving and Storage. As an official moving partner of Brown Harris Stevens, we know that your clients deserve more than just a move. At Roadway Moving and Storage, we turn moving into an experience they will love. From specialized services to a white glove treatment, we've got it all covered. When you choose Roadway, you're choosing a peace of mind for your clients. Plus, our referral program is the most rewarding in the industry. Want to learn more? Shoot me an email at steven@roadwaymoving.com or visit roadwaymoving.com.
All right. We're back with Nikki and Hunter. So one of the things that we talked about in our pre-podcast interview was the difference and uses of kind of off-the-shelf canned products, IT products, PropTech products versus customized products. And Hunter and I have worked for 20 years often trying to customize products, and he and I know how difficult that can be. How do you decide? I mean, you must see so many different, solutions or so-called solutions. How do you decide? Do you take it off the shelf? Do you try to customize something yourself? Is there something in between?
Yeah, and I think that build, borrow, buy discussion. Everyone has it at different points, and look, it's hard for me to give advice without knowing the nuances. However, I always like to give a perspective and a point of view. Something to consider is that if you're building something internally, somebody has to maintain it. And who are you going to get to maintain it? And can you pay the salary of someone that is the top tech talent and have that team? Google's paying top talent. The other thing is that if you go and you find an off-the-shelf product, they also have other customers. So they're actually getting the smarts from what their other customers are telling you, or telling them, that's going to keep enhancing the product. Mm-hmm. And they have a team there where all they do that makes money is enhancing the product. So for you, if you have somebody internally, they're a cost center, you're probably not going to pay them that well. If you get a product off the shelf, for them, that's a revenue generator to have a better... So it's a philosophical thing in that kind of a way. So my general stance is try where you can to get a product that's off the shelf. You may need to customize it, but also what's happening now is that there's so many great APIs and integrations that you can have one product and then start plugging other little products in to do little additions, little tasks and, products that are like, $10 a month or $20 a month that you can plug it in, get rid of it and do things. And I mean, that's what I'm working on at the moment with my automations. And it's like, oh, okay, this isn't that hard. Like, and you start finding the extra superpowers in the products you already have that you probably didn't think about before because you're only, changing channels and, adjusting the volume. So right. I don't know. I'd love to hear.
A lot of the off-the-shelf solutions allow you to start working immediately, whereas if you're creating a scope of work and building something completely from scratch, it could take months, if not years. And there's often times where by the time it hits the market, it's outdated. the need has changed, the market has evolved. So I'm a big believer in customizing off-the-shelf products.
Yeah, and certainly the ramp-up time is a lot shorter. And I know we give a lot of feedback to our vendors when they're providing technology to us. I think we might be their best, actually, like beta testers.
Yeah.
Nikki, in the last couple of minutes that we have here, what technology for the real estate industry are you most excited about seeing, either that hasn't been completely developed yet, or that is in kind of ongoing development that you think is really going to change our industry?
Oh, so I'm going to answer it in two different perspectives. One is that I saw an announcement recently from Autodesk, who creates all the CAD programs that architects use. I haven't touched CAD in more than a decade, to be honest, so I wasn't particularly good at it. But now they're talking about different integrations between different software programs. So one of the things that I one of the things I heard about recently as yesterday, was that California is using an Australian product called Archistar to help speed up the development process, that they can use AI to look at a proposal for a new residential building and see if it meets the criteria, particularly sustainability criteria, to speed up that development process. So I think there's great things happening in that arena, but I think the other arena that's severely lacking is actually just in executive education for our industry around the practical applications of learning to use the AI products and what it means for us as a business and business transformation. So two things.
Yeah, well, I certainly know that learning to use the product is something that I'm always reaching out to Hunter and his team about, because I'm not as savvy in it as some others.
Yes.
What you spoke about being able to accelerate the pre-development process, that's huge, because that's actually saving money, right? Every day that a development is in pre-development is the days that you're paying interest without seeing any return.
Yeah, and a lot of uncertainty. So,
right.
Yeah, which I can get on a soapbox about that another time. But
I would love to have you back and do that again. Nikki, you're awesome. Thank you so much. Good luck down in ULI in Southwest Florida on June 10th. Hunter, as always, thank you for everything you do and for being so amazing. Till next time.